Thank you. Welcome members to the overview and scrutiny of the 26th of November. I will now go to the agenda to approve the minutes of the overview and scrutiny 12th of November. All approved? Thank you, members. Apologies, Carol.
Chairman, I've received apologies from councillors A. Adams, Bond, Dufty, R. Duncan, S. Duncan, Kinsley and Wilson.
Thank you. And declaration. Oh, Councillor. Carol, are we allowed to accept them? Yep, from the floor. Yep. I will now go to agenda item declarations of interest. Any declarations? No, thank you. I will now go to the next agenda, budget monitoring 24-25 second quarter. Becky Meyer to present.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, thank you. This report sets out the budget monitoring position as at Q2 of the current financial year, so that's at the end of September. The summary monitoring report is set out in Appendix 1 and shows a projected saving for the current year against budget after the application of earmarked reserves of £292,000. This means that it would reduce the required use of our general fund reserves from 1.456 million per the approved budget at the beginning of the year to 1.173 million pounds. The key elements within the savings include lower than anticipated inflation on the waste contract, strong membership performance across our leisure centres, although that is largely being offset by additional costs arising from our joint use agreements with schools, half-year savings from our new insurance contract, and additional benefits from being part of the business rates pool with other Staffordshire Council than we'd originally built in. However, we are transferring that into the collection reserve at the moment. It should be noted that the position does not include the impact of the local government pay award that was agreed recently and was settled at a flat increase of £1,290 per full-time equivalent employee, as that was agreed after this monitoring was produced. But we are estimating that that will create a further saving of approximately £65,000. There are a number of appendices to the report, which I'm not going to take you through in detail, but happy to take any questions on. Appendix 2 details the variances against specific services. Appendix 3 shows the impact of the projected outturn on the council's earmarked reserves. Appendix 4 shows the capital programme, and lastly there is an additional appendix which shows the adjustments that have been made to budgets following the changes to cabinet names and responsibilities recently. I'm not planning to go through any of those in any more detail, as I said, but happy to take any questions. So I'll hand back to you, Chair, for that.
Thank you. Any questions? No. No. Councillor Reid.
Just a query on the provision we made for the homelessness. We put £1 million on one side. Has that actually been put on one side, or is it on back where it should be? Thank you.
Through you, Chair. Yeah, that's within our earmarked reserves, so that's been set aside in our earmarked reserves. We are projecting that £400,000 of that will be spent on the two properties that we were approved to be purchased. But other than that, we still have the remaining £600,000 uncommitted at the moment.
Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Beck, for the reply about warmer homes budget. It's very useful. Considering that we've got this surplus, are there any plans for it? In other words, are there any new initiatives that you can see that we ought to be either investing in at the moment in the locality or investing in other ways?
Thank you, through you, Chair. At the moment, my advice is that we actually hold on to that surplus within our earmarked reserves, within our general fund reserves, to protect us against the potential reductions in funding that we may well have as a result of the business rates reset and fair funding reform in 26-27. So the medium-term financial strategy that I'm working on at the moment assumes the surplus will be included and kept within our general fund reserves.
I just thank you for your previous presentation as well. I think we've got a very clear picture of looking into the fog as usual. But I commend your demeanour with this. You're really doing very well. Thank you.
Any further questions? No, thank you. Members, the recommendation is at 8.1. It is recommended the overview and scrutiny note the projected savings against the budget and set out in appendix. Are you all in agreement with those? Thank you, councillors. I will now go to the next agenda item, which is the integrated performance management, which is a new area, and our Chief Operating Officer.
If I can just come in, Chairman, at this point, thank you. Just to say on behalf of members and everybody else, thank you, Beck, for an excellent job you and John and your team do to keep our finances in order. We can't thank you enough. It's difficult times at the moment, as we're all aware that we'll be going through. So I'm glad you're keeping a close eye. So well done to the team and yourself. Thank you. Which brings me on nicely, if I may, to the next item to agenda, which the chairman has just announced. The approach to the integrated performance management places residents at the heart of all we do. They can see how well we are currently performing, our direction of travel, and how we intend to improve. Based on the Council Plan 24 to 28 priorities, we show how individual activities and performance indicator measures contribute to the priorities and, in turn, the overall performance of the Council. The performance is very much linked to what has just been presented by Beck with the finances. So, Chairman, it's back to you now to ask any questions or, for Jackie to views forward, please.
Thank you, Leader. Jackie.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, members. Really pleased to present to you tonight the first of our new style integrated performance management. We've tried to use what we previously did in terms of the storyboard style and effect, so that actually it gives an opportunity to highlight some of the ways the services actually as well do contribute to the council plan. I'm sure members will be pleased to know I have no intention of going through all 30 odd slides with you, but I will if you ask me nicely. Otherwise, what I'd refer you to is the final 2 slides, which are very much the summary of all of the information. As we know, the integrated performance management is based on the 4 council plan priorities, and it covers both their performance and strategic risks. We also have incorporated the off-log indicators with comparative information and the high-level budget section. As Becca's already shared the details of Q2 budget with you, I won't actually give any further information on that. But also we took the opportunity, as I mentioned, to do that highlight section at the half year, and that looks at events and case studies that demonstrate really our direction of travel. So my focus really is very much on the very good news at half year is all performance indicators are on track to be achieved at year end at this stage. Following this year's annual staff survey, we now have a 97% of our staff working from the hub particularly who would recommend us as a place to work. We're on track to generate an additional 1.1 million a year through income generation, and next quarter we will see current vacant units being let. Residents rated the waste service a high 4 out of 5 stars, and next quarter we will see the results of the annual resident survey. And we're bucking the national trend on our household recycling rates, improving by 1.7% between 22 and 23. And in Q3, a regular waste and recycling newsletter will be launched to support our residents with their understanding of how to reduce waste. The additional environmental crew have completed now 40 open space projects during Q2, and I'm very pleased to report waiting times for completing adaptations for disabled facilities has reduced, but Michelle again will give you more detail on the DFGs a little bit later tonight. We've also seen 40 event management plans being reviewed by Environmental Health, and with Q3 seeing a number of Christmas events planned, which again they'll be looking at those in detail and offering support. We do continue to experience a high and growing demand for temporary accommodation, and unfortunately we're seeing an increase in council tax arrears as households continue to be impacted both by the cost of living, but equally our collection rate remains stable. We have currently 10 strategic risks. These risks are all regularly reviewed, and the impact of the national pay policy on the council's MTFS risk is currently being managed whilst information continues to emerge. This sets out the context for the remainder of the year. Undoubtedly, there will be opportunities. However, we are working in an uncertain climate, as has been said on many occasions now, whilst policy direction from government continues to emerge. And that's things like the devolution white paper and, importantly, the funding allocations. That could have an impact ultimately on both performance and risk. And finally, the final slide shows how we are engaging with our communities through the locality model and see our services out at community events, carrying out home and business visits and supporting leisure and the wellbeing activities. So hopefully it's given you a really good flavour of just everything that we get into from the council and where we are hopefully making a difference. Happy to take any questions, Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Allen first.
Thank you. First of all, it looks as if central government are taking an extra interest in increasing employment. Any thoughts being given to us hosting some kind of bureau, if you like, here? I noticed that they are looking at all the job centres at the moment, and I wondered if this was an opportunity for us to do something locally here, rather than asking people to go into Wolverhampton all the time to check with the job centre there. I don't know whether we've got enough vacant premise to do that, but yeah, I think the Building Better Futures has been a success. It would be very good if we could roll that out in a better way.
Yes, we are working with Wolverhampton Job Centre. The problem we have in South Staffordshire, we're actually got 7 job centres all around the district that we work with. Wolverhampton has got most of the south. We were having plans to have somebody come in from the job centre. They turned up once and then there was an election and we didn't hear from them. So we're still working on that. Resources at the job centre are tight. And because we've only got a small amount of customers that they oversee that are in Wolverhampton postcodes, it is a resource that they can't always spare for us. But a lot of the, like you say, the Creating Brighter Futures programme is doing a lot of work with supporting customers to try and get into work and upskill. We've done some fabulous work with getting people qualified for that work, which fits into the government agenda. So if we can do better work with the job centres, we definitely will.
Another question, which is really about the increase in arrears in council rates. And connected to that, the advice, the financial advice that's available from the Citizens Advice Bureau in here. I do believe myself that with the rise in anxiety generally about bills and about difficulties in payment and understanding payment plans for some people, that we are probably going to have to expand our service in that direction. I noticed that most authorities are in this same predicament as well. And I wonder whether it would be a good idea to have some kind of rollout program to the various localities to try to talk to people who are in difficulty with their council rates. Some of the older people particularly would value, I think, a face-to-face rather than trying to deal with everything on the phone.
Yeah, that's something our welfare team are working on. We've been at various locations across the district. We've been into the co-ops across the district as well. The problem is we think we need to be in the areas, but getting people to come and talk to us is very difficult. So we give out leaflets, we, share our phone number. We have got a whole programme of works where we're trying to get out to these venues that people attend. We go to a lot of what were warm spaces last year. So, we're at Love and Liquor most Wednesdays. We're at, we've tried Cheslin Hay Parish Council. Take up was very low. We've been to Huntington. We have got a slot at Purton Community Centre, I think it is, that we're looking to publicise. So I think if we can share the information with you and you can give it out to your constituents as well, that would really, really help, because we're putting in a lot of effort to get out there. We're not just relying on social media, we're doing leaflets in shops, we're doing it in newsletters, but we can't quite get to the people that need the help most, and that's what we're constantly looking at.
I think from my point of view, that's a valuable service. I do feel people are reluctant to talk their debt and they're asking for advice. And perhaps we're better looking at a kind of clinic situation than having open meetings with them or talking to them in open areas, because they don't like the loss of confidentiality on those kind of occasions. Very happy to do that. And just to tell you that our library has a consultation room inside it, and just inside the building. And that would be probably useful to you. And if they're coming into the community centre, then into the civic centre, it's quite possible to arrange for people to sit in the foyer and come in for interview one at a time. And if we could say that to people, I think that might help. Thank you.
Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you ever so much for the report. It's good to hear that we're on the right track, and I was especially pleased to see after the engagement panel that we had last year that the council is getting out and about, as we've just discussed, and all the sustainable environment events that the council is going to as well. The one question I did have was on page 9 on the toggle thing, Q2 highlights. We've got staff retention rate at 90%. Staff retention can be a very tricky thing to measure. So I was just wondering how what are the mechanics we've got to measure staff retention and come up with 90%. Thank you.
We actually do as a staff survey, which actually finds out generally in terms of how the temperature with staff and what they're feeling. But in terms of the retention rate, it is very much a human resources where they actually look at the data in terms of comparing it to last year. So that's how they work out. And that's quite a national way of that actually being done. I think generally in terms of all of our HR data, we compare quite favourably to other local government, but that we don't take that for granted. That is about actually putting the work in and creating the right culture for our staff.
Thank you. And just a quick reference, members, you are the feet on the ground. You know any of your constituents that need help, signpost them to the officers. That would be a good way that they can then contact the department and help resolve the issues for your parishioners. I will now go to the decision, which is at the bottom of the page, and it is to note. Oh, Councillor Reid. Sorry.
Well, I'm here again. It's just a little bit of information on the those red figures, Michelle. What are those actually for? Citizen outside. It says outside the share service. Some red figures. Disabled. All right. Okay. Carry on, sir.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. Yes, and it is the recommendation just to note this policy. So everybody in favour? Yes, thank you. Agenda item number 6, disability facilities, and we'll go to Michelle.
You're coming to me first. Don't take all my space, Robert, will you? I've got to have my little say first. I've been to my first DFG board meeting over in Stafford and had a very positive partnership meeting with Stafford Borough. We looked at funding and past and future issues to help move this service forward and to meet residents' needs. So now I'm going to pass over to Michelle Campbell, who will tell you exactly what it's all about.
The Barrow. I've still got a bit of a tickly cough as well, so I'll see if I can make this through without losing my voice. So yeah, a summary of the Disabled Facilities Grant service that we offer. We're just over 18 months of our shared service with Stafford Borough. And I think, as I mentioned previously, at the point of transfer, there was over 300 applications outstanding from the previous provider. And they were all at various stages. And the final year of the contract wasn't particularly good, with a lot of staff leaving. And so when the new service started, a lot of people hadn't had any contact for some time. At the end of October, I'm really, really pleased to say that there was only 29 customers that I've carried over from the previous 300. 16 of those are in Homes Plus properties, and we made the decision to allocate those cases to Homes Plus, because as they already maintain the properties, anything that needed any work at the same time, it was more efficient for them to take on the grant and do the works. But it also meant that the customer only had one person to talk to, which was the landlord, instead of the two different ones. So of the remaining 13, at the end of October, 6 of them had works on site. So we're expecting them to be finished definitely within the next couple of months, but I'd be looking hopefully before Christmas. The oldest application that we've still got outstanding is from the 3rd of December 2021, which is longer than we would want. At the moment, that customer has actually got some mental health issues and is refusing the contractors to go in to finish the work. So we're working with them to move that on and get that works finished for them. All of the older applications have regular telephone updates from the team, informing them of progress so they know what's happening, and to check that their needs haven't changed. There's a variety of reasons why these jobs have taken so long. Part of it was just pure volume. We made a decision to start with new referrals as well as deal with the backlog. So rather than have hundreds waiting a long time, for those that was a particularly easy job, such as a stair lift or maybe a basic bathroom reconfiguration, it didn't make sense for them to be waiting 18 months for a job that would take 5 weeks, say. So we worked on the backlog and new referrals at the same time to move the work through. Sometimes needs have changed, so we've had to have another OT referral and look at what the needs are. Sometimes we come across differences of opinion with the client over what we can offer within the budget and within the legislation, or what the families want as well. So that involves a lot of negotiations with the team and the client and the family. So there's a whole variety of reasons why things have taken as long as they have. But like I say, the fact that we're down to virtually single figures is a really good indication of how the service has progressed. In total at the Murwell, at the end of October when I looked, there was 300 applications going through the process at the moment. The bulk of them is still at the application stage, and that's where we're getting technical officers to look at what the needs are, look at what the OT is recommended and how it can be done in the space that's available within the budget that's available. So there's a lot of things there to consider, but at the moment, in total, there's 46 works on site. So you can see that the work is going through. There aren't any areas where it's been backlogged. It's moving through the process. Setting up the new service took a while for everybody to get to know each other, to gel. We only had one member of the team that was 2P'd into the service. A couple of the technical officers hadn't worked in local government before, so it was a learning curve, although they're very experienced in their own field. Working within DFG legislation was new to them. They had to learn that. We had obviously a system that they had to learn. It was the same system that we used previously. So the lady that was 2P'd was fine. She was able to help the others get to know it. But the first 6 months, I would say, was a real time for the team to get together and understand what they were doing. So that sort of hit into the new service and how quickly we could push the work through. One of the KPIs we want to consider is how long from when the referral comes into the service to when it's completed. The previous provider, it was 350 days, and we absolutely knew we wanted to reduce that. We haven't set a figure as such, and I'll just sort of explain that. At the end of October, for the cases that had been outstanding prior to April 23, the number of days had gone up to 382. It was a bit less than that. And it just takes one particular case to throw that average out. And this was a case where the utilities had to be moved. They were sharing utilities with their neighbour, and in order to do the extension, we needed to move the meters, move the pipes. It was a Homes Plus property, so they were liaising with the utility company. If you take that one case out, the number of days was 342. So we were definitely under the 350 that we wanted to. At the end of Q2, the number of days is reduced to 352, which is going the right way. But what I want to really highlight is any cases that we started after April 23 and completed, the number of days is 201, and that is really closer to where we want to be. What we want to do now is once all the old jobs have been completed, we can look at a realistic target. Some of the bigger works, I mean, as you know, for anybody who's had any building work, it can take absolutely months to do your extensions and things like that. But the smaller jobs, if we can push them through quicker, we can bring the average down and then set a realistic KPI that is fair for the customer, but is also realistic when we're involving contractors, OTs, and things like that. So the funding for this year was 1.2 million, and we're in a really strong position to spend all of that, which obviously is the intention. We had a reimbursement from when we were with the previous partnership, and we've also had a couple of land charges paid back, and we've had underpayments for a number of years. So we've actually got an underspend of 1.5 million that we are looking at how we can best manage that money. It is ring fenced for DFGs, and with the future demand, we're expecting to increase because we've got an aging population, and you know we're looking at making allowing people to remain in their homes safely as one of our priorities. So we are looking at how we can manage that underspend and use it in the best appropriate way. We're looking at taking on additional staff, which will allow us to do more applications and move them forward quicker. But with that, we also need to have additional contractors on our books, and we need additional OT officers that can do the assessments as well. So it's not just a case of we take on a couple of extra staff. We need to look at the whole process and make sure that by taking on staff, we don't cause blockages with OTs, or we have jobs waiting because there's not enough contractors. So it's a bigger approach that we're going to be looking at doing. At the end of year 2, we'll do a proper analysis of where the work has been, where the delays could have been resolved quicker, how much staff we think we need, and we'll have a proposal then of what we can do to reduce that underspend. So overall, the team are doing really well. The work is progressing really well. We've only had one complaint, which wasn't upheld. It wasn't a reasonable complaint, and we've had 8 compliments. Not particularly good, but as you know, people shout when things aren't good and are not really coming forward when things are good. But you know, I'll take the 8 compliments. That's good. So I think it's been, you know, a really big improvement on our previous provider. Yes, there's a few niggles that we've had to deal with. Not everybody has had a smooth journey, but we're looking at where we can make that better in the future. And, you know, as Councillor Barrow said, it's a really good relationship we've got with Stafford. I'm very comfortable at raising issues that I think could you know, be addressed differently. I've got a good relationship with Sam, who's the lead of the programme. And I just think we made the right decision to go into partnership, and I just see it getting better and better. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd just like to reinforce that. It's really exciting to see how the team are working so well and to be there at the beginning. And I feel very privileged to share time with them and obviously be part of this wonderful organisation that really is, you know, the main aim is to make life better for people, and that's what we're all about. Very exciting. So watch this space as we continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Meg. Any questions? Councillor?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for an informative presentation. I have one resident in Bilbrook who applied for a DFG in November 2023, and the letter dropped on a doormat exactly to the day 12 months later to say that she'd been accepted for work on a bungalow. Now, a lot of the problems seem to have stemmed from getting OT assessments, and also, as you alluded to earlier, OTs not agreeing with clients as to what the client's true needs are. I wonder if you've got anything to say, any comments to make on that. And secondly, when you say that they are sent a text to give them the progress of the DFG, can you tell us, is that monthly, quarterly? How often do you do that, and how much detail do you go into I think you may have alluded to the one complaint earlier. I think we both know about that one. So thank you.
Yeah, the other case that, you know, we've spoken about a couple of times about the bungalow, the issue is the OT not being happy with the plans and the space available. We're limited with, you know, we can't go knocking down walls and things like that. So it's trying to fit in, and I believe the measurements we were talking about were really small. But I think that's now been progressed. I think we've managed to deal with that with the OT, and hopefully that will be seeing some movement. I don't know what regular contact looks like. I think it's at least monthly. And it's not always a text. What we do is we ask the customer how they want to be contacted. Sometimes if a relative's acting on their behalf, they want an email. That's fine, we can do that. Some people want a telephone call because they haven't got a mobile. So it's whatever the customer wants. But the bare minimum, it would be monthly. But if the customer does seem to be a bit more anxious about it, then we'd keep in touch more regularly to keep them updated.
Thank you for that. And also you mentioned earlier that the time for DFGs can be stretched by residents with mental health issues, not actually admitting workmen. And I've come across that quite a few times too. But I'd just like to say, I'd just like to echo Councillor Barrow's words that it's great that it's in-house now and it is taking longer. And can you assure me that nobody will have to wait 1 year between applying and receiving in the future, please? Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. I think once we get to the position where all the older cases are completed, definitely nobody that's applied since April is waiting much more than a year. There are things happening that might not always be apparent. It could be landlord permissions, it could be funding, opportunities or anything, but no case would sit there without any action for a year. But we're definitely looking to improve the time on the cases.
Councillor?
Thank you. So obviously it's always good to see things moving in the right direction, and you ought to be and the team congratulated on that. It was just really a question about whether, in terms of presenting the data in future, obviously you've talked about the average wait time, but the data, the wait time is not normally distributed, is it? It's not a nice little bell curve, and you've obviously got a big tail on the end because various reasons. So I just wondered whether you could just put in a little histogram or something like that so that we could get a better sense of what was happening across the board, because the average will be somewhat misleading, and that will help us have a better understanding of what the issues are potentially, with some more questions, that cause the long delays, etc. It was just a plea, really. I think that would be more helpful in future. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Harper-Willis?
Just to expand on that, yeah, I was going to ask a similar question around, like, what are we doing report-wise when we're looking at the metrics of, like, why something took longer? I know we've got, like, OTs potentially taking a while, or, like, contractors not being available. Are we flagging against, I guess, each case, like, a reason, or I don't know, like a label to say why it was delayed, or just to give us some insight that when we go back to the unallocated budget, we can, like, target it more effectively? So.
Yeah, definitely. The caseworkers pull out a spreadsheet out of the system on a monthly basis and add comments to that that's updated. I've got access to the system and I've just got very high level reporting tool, but that information will be available. And I think once we get to end of year 2, we can analyse that data definitely a lot better, because we shouldn't see any of the issues that we've had up till now. So yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Councillor Reid and Councillor Allen.
First. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, it's talking about the standard of work I think there were problems at the beginning with the standard of work. We feel now that we've overcome that and we've got a better contact with contractors to be able to do the work efficiently, therefore a shorter time.
Whose work wasn't up to the standard and we don't use them anymore. So when the technical officers go out to sign off on the works and check for snags and things like that, they will make a note of poor quality and we just don't use them. But in addition, if we hear or if the team hear of any newer contractors who are interested in getting involved, then they'll include them on the DPS as well. So it's kind of an ongoing thing that, you know, contractors are reviewed throughout the process and new ones are onboarded when they come along. We're definitely not standing still with any of that.
For that, because I think that answers Councillor Burnett's query about how long it takes. I think that it's interesting to hear that improved. And my final question was those elected.
I think those are credits. So all the black was debit. So we had some money back from when we had the SILIS partnership, which was the Supported Independent Living in Staffordshire, the previous one. The county had top sliced some of the money and they've been holding it. And so they paid us back. And the other figure was land charges. So if somebody has a grant over £5,000 and they own the house, we can place a land charge on the property up to the value of £10,000. And when that property is sold, that money's got to be paid back to us. So throughout the year, we sometimes get money back in when the properties are sold. So on the report, we've just put it in red just to show its credits.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Allen.
Thank you. Just to compliment Michelle, because I'm really pleased to hear that the partnership with Housing Plus is working out, and I hope the other social housing providers will do the same thing following this encouragement. I think that needs to be highlighted for other social housing providers in our area, for Pertness, Bromfords. So that will hasten things, and thank you for noting that elderly people prefer one person to contact and not two sets of people. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fisher.
Thanks, Chairman. And apologies, Michelle, if this is in here. I'm just interested on this table one, initial triage. We've got 66 people currently, obviously in this working through the progress, and it seems like we're helping a lot of people, which is good. But is there information there and how many people who apply don't get help or get rejected? So we can see the scale of actually we're helping a lot of people, but what's that in relation to how many people ask for help? Is there any information or data on that?
Yes, I haven't got it with me, but yeah, that is something I can look at for the future. People don't progress for a variety of reasons. Some people, it is means tested, the grants are, so some people are means tested out. Some people, when we talk to them about what we can do, it's not what they had in mind, so they change their minds. Unfortunately, some people are really poorly and go into hospital or care homes. So yeah, what I can include in future is the number of referrals into the service and the number that progress to grant applications. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sam Harper-Wallace.
Could I ask that we also put there like some sort of classification? So obviously failed means tested, get a report number for that, just so we can see those specifics as well. That's sneaking a question, another further question. Thank you. We've got a number for unallocated budget, but we've also got applications in progress. Obviously, depending on what status they are, we'll know how much they're going to cost. So how was that figure found out when we're looking at, like, we've got 66, we don't know how much those that are in triage at the moment, how much those are going to potentially cost?
When they get to grant approval, that's where we include it as works outstanding, because it's got to the point where we've had the application, we've done the technical drawings, we've had a quote, so that is when we class it. Still, it's still not always reliable, because things can happen after grant approval, and we can either have unforeseens because there was something there that wasn't picked up before with pipe work or something, or again, it might not progress. But the amount of money when we project pipeline for the year, it's based on all cases that have reached grant approval stage.
Just a follow-up question on that then. There's quite a number that aren't in that it's almost like above half the application stage or initial triage. So is there potentially a highlighted risk there that perhaps that number may not be as high as we think it might be, because those works could be substantial? We don't know the size of them yet.
Councillor Steele.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I'd be more interested in how long it takes the average job from the order going to the contractor to completion. All the other delays can be caused by outside bodies, can't they, and what have you? Can you produce information like that, for instance? That would give me a true reflection on whether the service is actually working or not. Because if you've got to wait for an occupational therapist, you could be waiting, well, forever, couldn't you?
Yeah, the way the system's set up, we could count a lot of stages. Every part is noted. So yeah, I could provide a better breakdown, because we also look at the point of referral into grant approved, and then grant approved to work on sites and that kind of thing. So yeah, I can. The next time I come, I'll have a whole suite of data. I'll need the whole night to share my data with you. But yeah, I take your point. I'll look at that.
Thank you, councillor. Any further questions? No, thank you. I would just like to also put my thanks as chairman to the officers for all the hard work that they are doing, and this service is an asset to the district. So if everybody's happy with that, then that will be put forward. And also just to the recommendation, it is for information only at this time. Thank you. I will now go on to the next agenda item, which is update of working group, and for the working group chairman to give an update. Councillor.
Have we elected chairs on the working groups yet?
That is something I do not know.
I don't think that's happened yet, is it?
Chairman, sorry, can you hear me?
Sorry, Lorraine. Yes.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, mysterious detached voice. Apologies that I can't be there with you this evening, members. But as you can probably hear, I've got a cold and I didn't want to share my germs with you. So the member working groups, there was a delay between the writing of this report and the next meeting of those. So the report captures a summary of the first meetings, and then really just so members are aware of what's going on. And the only change from the report before you is the date of the AI group has been moved to the 9th of December, which members may be aware. But chairman and vice chairman will be elected at that next meeting of each of those groups. Thank you.
Any questions? No, thank you. This is just a note. Thank you, members. We'll now go to the work programme, and this is again for Lorraine Foulkes to answer on working programme. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. So members, as normal, this is just the update of the ONS work programme. As always, there have been some amendments as set out in the report on page 67 of your pack. It's always subject to change and is likely to change again. But as always, if members have got any comments or anything they want to bring before ONS, then the first route should be to the chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine. Any questions?
It's not a question, Chairman, really, other than I think it's something I have asked before, and I can't remember what the outcome or the response was. Hopefully Lorraine may remember. But as I said, to go through you, I'm interested in whether we could get the Environment Agency to an overview and scrutiny meeting. I'm interested in our existing water courses, you know, and what resilience we have locally with those. But further in regards to further development, so we've all been well told the government wants to build 1.5 million houses. We could get considerably more in South Staffs, and what work the Environment Agency is doing to look at the capacity of our existing water courses in South Staffs and the sufficiency of them. And then my second point, why I'd request they come, Chairman, is I'm interested in the pollution, obviously, which is within their remit, and what work they're doing now in South Staff. So if we were to have 13,000 homes over the next 20 years, they're ensuring that sewage treatment works locally are investing in capacities now, so they're not discharging into our rivers and streams in the future. If that can be considered, Chairman, for a future, they're probably a bit busy at the moment, but in the new year.
Thank you, Councillor. Any comment on that, Lorraine?
Yes, Chairman, absolutely. If that's a topic that would be of interest to members, then with your agreement, we can add that to the work programme going forward. So we can make contact with the Environment Agency. As with all outside bodies, we have no power to compel attendance, but certainly we can invite.
Thank you, Councillor Allen.
Thank you. Point of information, really, because the Environment Agency came to Purton Library to talk to us about our watersheds and our water courses. There's some very detailed mapping exercises, which are very interesting to see. As a consequence of that, we have a walk along the River Penk for our parish council this week. And I believe that also there was an exhibition in Brood Library as well. So clearly they're moving around the area, taking up views. We have asked for a public meeting in Purton because we have flooding problems and we want to address those properly. And I think it will be a very good thing for other communities to have the same facility if the Environment Agency is able to provide it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any more questions? No, thank you. And this at recommendation 7.1 is to note as well for members. Everybody happy with that? Thank you. And I will now go to the last part of the meeting, which is work programme. Oh, we've just done that, sorry. Lost the track then. To thank everybody for attending, and I will close the meeting. Thank you.